Oh. Ladies and gentlemen, could you kindly take your seats? We're about to begin the session. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, kindly take your seats for our final session. Welcome, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to this final session of the third World Conference on Higher Education. We've had three very productive, inspiring, creative, innovative, inclusive days of presentations, roundtables, head talks, with more than 2,200 people here in Barcelona with us, and over 8,000 people joining us online all around the world for 155 sessions, 42 roundtables, 422 speakers. So we have been busy people. You have been busy people. But before we move ahead with a couple of reflections from the last 3 days and then the road ahead, let's take a look back and see what you have been doing over the last 3 days. See, I told you you'd been busy, didn't I? So I now would like to invite a couple of reflections from participants here. The first one, very importantly, represents the youth that we have here, the students and youth talent. This was one of our key objectives for this World Conference, was to make this a truly youth participative process and discussion. So it gives me very great pleasure to welcome onto the stage Ms. Kanisha Agora. Please, would you like to come to the stage?
Good evening, everybody. Dear guests, virtual attendees, and fellow young delegates, it is an absolute honor to be here with you all to reflect on the last 3 days about reshaping education and reflecting for new ideas on the new roadmap for higher education. It is no doubt that the greatest treasures in our time do not lie in the deepest of seas, but in the minds and hearts of young people. There is no change that we cannot accomplish when working together. Our greatest potential is human potential. Our greatest commodity is human potential. And education has the potential to change humanity's course, protect our planet, and dismantle entrenched inequalities and global disparities. But education itself needs to be transformed to be able to achieve this vision. As we build the future of higher education, youth voices and youth-led solutions are absolutely imperative to achieve the future vision that we have for higher education. Youth are not only the leaders of tomorrow and changing the future for tomorrow, but we are the leaders changing educational spaces, systems, policies, and practices today. The biggest global crisis of our time presented us with an opportunity to innovate and transform. As our world rapidly changes, it is imperative for youth like me to be part of building the future of life and work that we cannot imagine. This conference has united us all to believe that when we come together, there is no great mountain that we cannot achieve or overcome, and that we can achieve the dreams and visions through our learners and researchers, that things and ideas that we cannot yet imagine. As a young scholar myself, the conversations and discussions I have heard make me hopeful for the future of education. So I want to thank you all for listening to young voices and committing to developing an education system centered around global good. With great leadership, I have no doubt that we can unleash the talent to build a sustainable and resilient future for all. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that youth voice and those future vision words from the students here today and around the world. Our second reflection comes from a professor at the University of Alaska in Anchorage, Dr. Parisa Lufti, was born in Iran, immigrated to the United States, and now is working with the Vice Chancellor for Foreign Affairs for academic research to organize activities around inclusion and inclusivity. Dr. Lufti, please.
Hi, friends. In the very last hour of the last day of such a wonderful event, I am here to tell you my story and hopefully not to bore you, to put you to sleep. So I was born and raised in Iran, and at the age 15, I chose to become a Baha'i. Baha'i faith is a world religion with a very progressive teachings regarding peace and education of women. Baha'is in Iran are the largest religious minority, and yet they are deprived of higher education and access to knowledge. It has been always like this. However, after the revolution in 1970, it has become more severe and systematic. So Baha'is, as a response to the need of their community for education, established a university in early 1980s in the homes and basements of their communities. The professors of the Baha'i Institute for Higher Education are volunteers, and their students attend the university knowing that their degree is not going to be recognized by the Ministry of Education of Iran, and therefore it will not guarantee a job. However, selflessly, and despite all the persecutions and systematic suppressions of them, they attend the university and have accomplished a lot. So I'm a former student and instructor of that university. About 20 years ago, I moved to US to pursue my higher education. And in graduate school, I met the love of my life, my husband, who is an Alaskan native. As I was offered many projects, subconsciously I chose rare genetic disorders, which at the time I did not know why I chose such a subject, but it's becoming more clear that my education in Baha'i Institute has transformed me to always be conscious and aware of marginalized diseases, discriminated populations, and it has truly been a life-changing transformation as education should be. So in 2020, a few months after the pandemic, in April, my husband was offered a job in Alaska, and I was left with the dilemma of, am I going to be on his way of serving his community, or am I going to be supporting him? Despite all the advice of my counselors, my supervisors, and my colleagues calling my move to Alaska a career suicide, I chose to move to Alaska and support my husband. A year later, I found a job in the Office of Vice Chancellor of Research at University of Alaska. And truly, it has been an honor and privilege to serve the best, most dedicated, incredibly kind population, the indigenous population of Alaska. So I'm here to tell you that truly, as you believe, education is one of the most effective forces of society for transforming individuals and communities. We just have to choose not to stand on the way of its forces. Thank you so much for your attention, and it was very lovely to be here with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Parisa, for your very moving and inspiring personal journey, bringing you to Barcelona. Now, we need to look at the journey ahead of us. We are almost at the finishing line of this conference, but we have a journey ahead of us. And for that journey, we need a roadmap. So it's my very great honor to invite our UNESCO Assistant Director General for Education, Madam Stefania Giannini, to come to the stage and present to us the way forward, the future that you have all been building. Stefania.
Thank you so much, Peter. Good afternoon, great to be here once again for your review. Well, we are reaching to the end of this so intensive 3 days of discussion, and it was the culminating moment of a long process of consultation, open debate on such an important topic. And my first duty now, almost at the end of this exciting World Higher Education Conference, Barcelona 2022, is to say a few words about this roadmap, which is about next steps, the future, and the vision we are bringing. And I wish to say immediately what it is and what it is not. It's a working, living document. It's not a negotiating outcome document. This is because, as you know, this is not an intergovernmental process. This Higher Education World Conference traditionally is very much about provoking a debate globally and bringing all the different perspectives to build a new vision, a new phase for higher education and universities to be at the core of a new, more sustainable, peaceful world. But this conference generates a vision, and this is very much important, through this living document. And what is this roadmap is about? It's meant to evolve, not to be as a blueprint, to be disseminated, but to be nourished by these last 3 unique days now, and to be nourished in the next few months by a second phase of consultation. As such, this living document, this roadmap, is a warm invitation to all of you to continue exchanging, to continue shaping with your ideas, their views, adapting them to different contexts. It's not a one size for all, and this is one of the main principles of the process. Well, all that calls for change, calls for transformation. And transformation, we know, it's not an easy process. People don't like change. And transformation takes shifts on mindset, behaviors. And what are the main kind of shifts we have to bring? Let me summarize some of them I see as crucial from this global debate we are having. It's about cooperation versus competition. It's about diversity over uniformity. It's about flexibility, flexible learning, over traditionally well-structured hierarchical models of education. And it's about critical word I wish to highlight, openness. We need open system of higher education to build bridges and to promote partnerships around the world. Well, the background and the scope of this document is about nourishing by extensive research and wide consultation, as you know. Let me quote some of the interesting reports, papers that have been presented during the last 3 days. The report by the expert group on universities and 2030 agenda, the Futures of Education report, which has been released by the International Commission chaired by Madam President of Ethiopia, Saleh Work Zewde, but it's covering also the mission of rethinking, reimagining higher education within the broad context of education, and all the series of online conversation, consultation that has been taken into account in this first draft. Well, we are guided by 2 time frames. One is very well known. It's the 2030 agenda, is the goals, the 17 goals for a better society, to protect the planet, to have prosperity, to have a peace and stability. And the second one, the most ambitious one, is the 2050, which is very much beyond the limits of what we are discussing in the last few years. Well, as we have said many times during this conference, we are faced by a set of unprecedented interconnected challenges. I wish to recall briefly, as you see here, the global health pandemic, of course, the most recent, unexpected, the disruptive change we had, the climate crisis, which is threatening our survival, our planet, which is the only one we have, political polarization, unfortunately, increasingly very, very visible in many regions and countries of the world, and everything making our societies more fragile and tense. And we are also backsliding on democracy and all our won gains, including SDGs that, as we know, are not all of them on track. So what about universities, tertiary education, higher education in this complexity, in this picture? Higher education is somehow impacted, of course, by all these trends, but it must be very much part of the solution. And it must respond to them. And that's what we heard through all the panels and different conversations we had during the last 3 days. It's also grappling with its own dynamics that have informed our conference. Let me recall some of them: massive expansion, increasing mobility, changing and sometimes contentions, funding approaches, and of course, the all-encompassing role of technology, which must put at the service of learners and teachers and researchers, and not the other way around. So, urgent change is needed, and urgent change is about the ethical imperative, as Professor Sylvia Schmelkes affirmed in a remarkable keynote. Let me recall her words: change always generates resistance, but barriers to strengthening the potential impact of higher education in society at large must be brought down, and structural and cultural transformations have to be put in place. And that has to be done now. And this is the sense of urgency that we want to stress outside of this beautiful venue in the coming days, weeks, and years. We heard that this sense of urgency comes from all the stakeholders, especially young people. I had the privilege this morning to listen to their proposal, to the Creaton, which is this exercise of unlocking the creativity of young people and giving us solutions. And I think that they're really calling us to be part of this process urgently and to give them room, not only to bring their voices, but also to be co-creator of change. Change is transformation. We mentioned many times during these 3 days, I wish to recall, this process is part of the transforming ambition of education, especially this year when the Secretary General of the UN is calling for a big initiative, Transforming Education Summit, September, New York, Paris, pre-summit, June, end of June. But what's transformation is about? Well, I'm obsessed by words as a classical philologist by training. And let me recall of you that transformation from ancient Greek is a metamorphosis. That means transforma. It's not reinventing, it's not replacing something, but it's evolving something which is already there, which is about reshaping. And that's what our agenda is about. And the new form we are looking for should be connected, collaborative, cooperative, and agile. And for that, we need the principles which can inspire this process. These principles are the following. First, inclusion, greater inclusion and promoting diversity. This is very much needed at university level more than in other dimensions of education where this topic has been already well somehow embedded or it's part of the discussion since many years. In higher education now, inclusion is a social imperative, let me say very clearly. And SDG 4.3, the specific target, calls for ensuring equal access to technical, vocational, higher education level, and we are very still far from that. Second point, second principle is academic freedom. We heard very much a call for reaffirming this principle, which is the DNA of universities. Let me say very clearly, it's not a new entry in the picture, but it's very much to reaffirm the power of this principle, which is essential to protect the role of university and the intellectual autonomy of their community. And this requires a high degree of institutional autonomy, which must be balanced with public accountability. Third principle is inquiry, critical thinking, and creativity. This is about unlocking the potential of every kind of different scientific literacy and preparing students to find innovative solutions, as we're trying to do also in our process here. Fourth principle is about integrity and ethics. Once again, we have to give this responsibility from an ethical perspective about education at university level. And what we are talking about is about generating a new kind of citizenship for the future. Fifth principle is commitment to responsibility and sustainability and social responsibility. We heard a very interesting also concrete example of how university can fertilize their local community and can keep back the experience they are generating. And this is a kind of dynamic which is very much important to activate increasingly in the future. Sixth principle, the last one, is about cooperation for excellence and not competition. I mean, competition is important, which is about improving our institution, but it's not about putting in the ranking and having a kind of competitive approach to a common good, a public common good as education is. Well, these three missions, which we need to reshape a higher education guided by this principle, according to the roadmap, are the following. Put in three fresh lenses, so to say, on the traditional roles of university and higher education, which are training, research, and social engagement. First, educating citizens for this century means being them able to navigate complexity, and this is in my opinion, one of the most difficult and the main mission of higher education today. Universities are one of the main contributors to build a new, more global citizenship approach. Second point, we heard very much about that, the need of a holistic and a humanistic approach for learning. Complexity requires knowledge to be produced through transdisciplinarity and not simply putting together different competencies like interdisciplinarity requires. And this is almost a common approach we are having. And it calls for connecting the science and the humanities. There are no boundaries between these two different domains that can and must contribute to the main challenges to address. Finally, it's about social engagement and ethical responsibility. Well, based on these principles and putting the fresh lens on the traditional missions of universities, we can try to find solutions to these six major transitions that the roadmap highlights somehow. Let me recall briefly. From exclusion to inclusion, higher education is absolutely, crucially part of the right to education, and higher education is a public good, a common good. And this is the main pillar of our vision. Second, from a discipline-oriented approach to a holistic approach, already mentioned before. And this means having really also taken stock from the lessons we learned from the pandemic. Third, from a methodological point of view, we have to break silos and to move to approach challenges with different competencies around. And this encourages open dialogue openness of our institutions. Fourth, from a terminal, incremental approach to a lifelong learning model, and this is what UNESCO is pushing for, is promoting since the launch of 2030 Agenda, and this is very much related to the importance to have right to education as a pillar of SDG 4 from pre-childhood to university level and beyond. Then, from a hierarchical model, one size doesn't fit for all, we know, to a real flexible, agile, diversity-based model which can valorize the local community approach and contribution to the knowledge of the community. And this is very much including regional approaches, and this is very much what we are also doing in our process. Finally, from content-based to transformative model of learning. This is related to the role of technology, mostly, which must be transformative at the service of learners, researchers, and teachers, and not to be, of course, the final goal, but a tool to achieve the final goal. So, for sure, it's a very ambitious roadmap, but as my colleague mentioned before, it's not everything to be concluded here in this beautiful city of Barcelona, but it's starting from Barcelona to go ahead. And let me recall what next that I'm sure you are very interested to share with us. The conference as the beginning of a process framed by this sixth transition, having the roadmap as a framework of reference is an open living document to be still consulted. That's what is going to happen in the coming months. We'll lead an online consultation on this roadmap over the next months to take on board and to be reached by the conference itself. It will also, this is an important point, orient SDG 4 implementation. There will be an important first meeting of the first operational meeting of the high-level steering committee of the SDG 4 in November this year, and we want to go there with the contribution of this process. So, to that end, we warmly invite all the academic community, many of you are here, connected or in person, but there are many other colleagues around the world that I'm sure want to join to bring their point of view in order to readjust some of the dimensions I quoted. And in 2027, we shall organize what we call already a Barcelona +5 forum. That means in 5 years to be ready to see and able to see what kind of implementation this roadmap has having and take stock. And let me insist on keeping the wide perspective that this conference is bringing, and maybe this is the added value of this World Higher Education Conference in comparison with the past. I was not part of that, but I know that it's very important that the large family of the higher education, including students and young people, are really part actively of this living document that has to inspire any single community, university, to make their own choice and to take benefit from this inspiration. That's what we hope. Well, I wish to end this overview quoting a nice, inspiring principle that has been already mentioned in the opening session by Professor Novoa when he was presenting the Futures of Education report from the perspective of the International Commission. And this comes from Harvard President Drew Faust, who said, the essence of university is that it's unique, accountable to the past and to the future. And this is what the roadmap is try to summarize. Thank you very much. Looking forward to have all of you on board.
Thank you very much, Stefania, for bringing us full circle in conclusion for this World Conference and reminding us that the journey begins now, the work begins now with this organic, living, work in progress roadmap of roadmaps for the future as we move towards 2030. It now calls on me to hand over the chair to our logistical, practical partners in crime perhaps, in Barcelona to conclude the session. So I'm honored to invite Josep Maria Velata, Director of the Guni Akup organization here, who now is our best friend and family member with UNESCO. Josep Maria, over to you.
Thank you very much, Peter. Thanks to all of you, and especially to all UNESCO members and groups. It's really an honor to be here with you and present the last presentations. I'll advise you to rest here for a while because we have prepared a very special final cultural and musical performance, so please stay with us because it's going to be really nice at the end of this Congress. It's my honor first to give the floor to the authorities, and in the first place to Mr. José Manuel Pingarrón, Secretario General de Universidades del Ministerio de Universidades. Gracias.
Secretary General for Universities from the Ministry for Universities. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, dear authorities, dear Assistant Director General of UNESCO, representative of the Catalan government, dear colleagues, dear all. On behalf of the Spanish government and the Ministry of Universities, let me express our deepest gratitude to all the organizations and people that have allowed that this World Higher Education Conference has been celebrated at Barcelona. Their close cooperation and, of course, the great effort of all the people involved in the organization allowed that the brilliant task, the extremely interesting panels, and the fruitful conversations at the halls and at the corridors provide us with significant ideas and tools for improving higher education all around the world. Permettez-moi maintenant que je dise...
Allow me to say a few words in French now, particularly to thank UNESCO for this opportunity provided to us to be here in Barcelona to hold this conference. And I would also like to thank the representatives of teaching staff, students, and others who constantly ensure that higher education can be constantly improved.
In Spanish, yo de todas
Among all the ideas that were tabled during this conference, I'd like to focus on one in particular, which is very important. The slogan that we saw every time someone spoke, leave no one behind. That is extremely important. Higher education must be acknowledged as a universal right throughout the world. We cannot leave anyone behind. And that is why we need to have policies which do not leave anyone behind. We need to implement policies which ensure equality and access to university studies. For example, policy for bursaries and scholarships, which allow students, those who want to attend university, to attend regardless of their personal socio-economic conditions. But we also need to support students throughout their university career to ensure that they also have a successful outcome and complete those studies. Therefore, we need to tackle challenges which are extremely important in this current phase we're in. We need to ensure that universities are guiding lights towards a better future, a more sustainable society, a greener society, and a more egalitarian society. Essentially, universities must have as their mission to serve society as a fundamental element. That is, with higher education as a fundamental element. And also ensure that they're closer to the needs of society, to ensure an efficient transfer and exchange of knowledge with society, involving everyone in society, not just with companies, but also with entities from the tertiary sector. Universities must be the nexus between knowledge, its generation, and its transfer to society to make for a better world. As I said before, I'm convinced that UNESCO will be working hard in forthcoming years with all organizations and all university systems to allow us to move forward in that direction. Thank you very much. I wish you a very safe trip home for those of you who are not from Barcelona. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, Secretario General de Universidad.
Thank you very much to the Secretary General for Universities.
Lleis i carreres, consellera de Recerca i Universitats del Govern de
Regional Minister for Research and Universities from the Regional Government of Catalonia.
Good afternoon, buona tarda, buenas tardes, bonsoir, buonasera. General Director, Assistant Director of General of Education and Higher Education at UNESCO, authorities, friends. I am proud, it is a pleasure to close this conference on higher education. As a Ministry of Research and Universities of the Government of Catalonia, it is an honor that this meeting has decided to leave to UNESCO headquarters in Paris this year and has chosen Barcelona, Catalonia to celebrate this third edition. This decision consolidates the strong position and the Catalan higher education system around the world. I would like to thank the organizers for their efforts to bring together speakers from leading institutions and organizations around the world to talk about the future challenges we face. També vull agrair a les
I'd also like to thank the 12 universities that we have in Catalonia and their commitment to research, the University of Barcelona, the Autonomous University of Barcelona, the Polytechnic University of Barcelona, the Pompeu Fabra University, Ramon Llull University, Lleida, Girona, Rovira i Virgili, Open University of Catalonia, University of Vic, Central University of Catalonia, International University of Catalonia, and the Abat Oliverseu University. I'd like to thank all of you for your commitment to higher education.
Solid, a robust knowledge system. All the indicators are confirming that, and not only in teaching, but also in research, innovation, and transfer activity. I think it's also important to emphasize that we live in a time when democratic values are in risk. Universities must continue playing a key role defending these values in the fight for fundamental rights, freedoms, diversity, the culture, the language of a country. On the opening day in this conference, we heard El cant dels ocells by Pau Casals. We all remember the speech he made 50 years ago at the United Nations in New York. On that day, this Catalan musician, universal Catalan musician, made a speech about peace and claiming his culture, Catalan, his language, Catalan, and his country, Catalonia. That's why today I want to end with one of his quotes. La llibertat no és negociable. Freedom is not negotiable. Thank you so much. Merci beaucoup. Buenas tardes. Thank you a tots.
Moltes gràcies, consellera.
Thank you very much, Regional Minister for Research and Universities from the Catalan Government.
This is Stefania Giannini, UNESCO Assistant Director General for Education. Please. Thank you very much, Mrs. Stefania Giannini, for your confidence with Barcelona and with Acup Guni.
Excellencies, I know I'm the last obstacle to the cultural performance. I already taken the floor to present the roadmap. I will be very brief, but it's my pleasure and my honor on behalf of UNESCO to conclude this conference and to highlight some important points that are about the process, which has been very successful, 120 roundtables, side events, workshops, 86 head talks, 5 youth-led activities, and 1,800 participants in person, with the pleasure to be in person once again, and many others connected through the platform. So we are talking about transformation, urgent transformation is needed to democratize access and knowledge, to orient learning around the challenges of sustainable development, to build peace in the minds of men and women, which is, as you know, the fundamental principle of UNESCO Constitution. And to take forward this reflection, we have some responsibility to share. I wish to recall 3 main responsibilities, 3 of them. First, as a global community, our first responsibility is to every learner, especially to young generation, and to consider that higher education, let me stress once again this point, is really a part of the right to education, and it's a common public good. And as such, we have to consider that dimension of education. Second point, our responsibility is to open up higher education to society and to connect as much as possible the academic community with the rest of the world. And it's about listening to communities, it's about integrating different systems of knowledge in our daily work. Third responsibility is to foster what we can call a new ecology of learning. And this new ecology of learning must be lifelong, collaborative, taking place at the same time, science and technology at the service of human and planetary well-being and our common future. And this is very much at the heart of the new social contract for education that the Futures of Education report by UNESCO calls for. So we have seen a lot of trust in this process, and this is another key word in my vocabulary, I'm sure in yours as well. And this trust here is about advocating for an important tool to make all this happen, the Global Convention for Recognition and Ratification and Qualification of Higher Education that UNESCO launched 2 years ago. I have the pleasure to announce that in the last 2 days, where we're already running this conference, the 15th country actually ratified the convention, which is Sweden, and I want to congratulate from Barcelona to Stockholm for this important achievement. Well, really to conclude, ultimately, all this is about strengthening the condition for peace. And this is really the most important duty that we have as a community and where UNESCO is on top of. On behalf of UNESCO, I wish there to express my sincere thanks to our host country, the government of Spain, the Secretary of State here representing the government, the Ministry of University, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Thank you very much for being with us and ensure to taking the leadership in the future. My deep appreciation goes to the Generalitat de Catalunya, the Diputación de Barcelona, and the municipality, the City Hall, as well as ACUP UNI, our great partner in this process. I'm sure that Barcelona has a role to play in the coming months and years. I cannot quote everyone by name, but everything has been possible thanks to some important partners, sponsors. Let me recall some of them: Open Society Foundation, Huawei, La Caixa, Fundación La Caixa, Anthology, Fundación Princesa de Girona, and Mobile World Capital. Thank you for being with us, and I hope this group will be quickly enlarged. So, we have now solid ground. Through this responsibility we are taking together to chart a new course for higher education in the next decade. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Stefania Giannini, UNESCO Assistant Director General for Education. And let me again thanks to all of you for being here, for being in this wonderful World Conference, UNESCO World Conference. I also want to thank especially again the UNESCO team. It has been extremely interesting to work with you and to share with you this extraordinary conference, the Ministry of Universities and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Government of Spain, la Generalitat de Catalunya, el Departament de Recerca i Universitats i el Departament d'Acció Exterior i Govern Obert, l'Ajuntament de Barcelona,
Barcelona City Hall, Barcelona Fira, Barcelona Provincial Government, the Caixa Foundation that's helped to welcome us in the Caixa Forum, the various Catalan universities
involved in this process, GUNI, ACUP, all musicians, all cultural performers, and especially a special thanks to all student ambassadors that during these days you have seen all of them running here and helping you on the Congress. Thank you very much to all ambassadors, students. And please. Thank you very much. Moltes gràcies a tots.
Thank you very much to you all for being here with us.
Introducing the final, let's say, festivity of the conference. This is going to be a kind of Catalan folklore. We will have the beast, which is El Griu de Barcelona. That's a fantastic medieval beast with the body of a winged lion and the head of a hawk. And the figure of El Griu de Barcelona is the work of the sculptor Xavier Jansana i Font. We also have the caps de la Pedrera, els capgrossos de la Pedrera. They represent the image of the chimneys of the La Pedrera building, and they were built in 1998 on the occasion of the centenary of the building of the La Pedrera. We will also have a special group, the Gumbo Jazz Band. Since its creation in 1998, the traditional jazz band, Gumbo Jazz Band, has been committed to preserving and disseminating the most original style of jazz born in the early 20th century in New Orleans. And finally, we will also have a special performance from the circus, artists from our local Catalan circus community called Papallona Circus. So, thanks to all of them, and the festivity, la Festa Major, starts.
Come on, ladies.
També unes...
And also special greeting, special thanks to the Escola de Baus, the students who've just performed this wonderful mural, Leave No One Behind. They've just painted it for us. Thank you very much to each and every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all of you. See you soon in Barcelona.